My name is Lena, and I am 36 years old. This is the story of how I lost the only man who ever truly loved me, because I was too afraid to tell the truth. It's been 3 years since Daniel died, but I still wake up every morning expecting to hear his voice, his laugh, the sound of him making coffee in the kitchen. But the house is silent now, and it's my fault. I met Daniel when I was 25. I was working as a nurse in a small hospital, and he was a photographer who had come to take pictures for a charity campaign. He was tall, gentle, with kind eyes, and that rare kind of smile that makes you feel safe. He asked me to have coffee with him after work, and I said yes. That one cup of coffee turned into hundreds over months, then years. We fell in love quietly, naturally, like two rivers that slowly merge into one. Daniel had a way of seeing beauty in everything. He would point to an old tree or a child laughing and say, "See that? That's life, trying to remind us it's still beautiful." We married 2 years later. It was simple, just us, our families, and a few close friends. No fancy dress, no big wedding, just love. I remember how he held my hand that day and whispered, "No matter what happens, promise me we'll always talk to each other, always tell the truth." I promised, and I broke that promise. Everything was perfect for the first 5 years. We didn't have much money, but we had peace. We traveled when we could, took long walks, and stayed up late watching old movies. We dreamed about having children. Then everything changed when I got sick. It started as small things, fatigue, bruises that wouldn't heal. I ignored it for weeks, but one day I fainted at work. After a few tests, the doctor told me I had leukemia. Daniel wasn't there that day. He was away photographing refugees in another country. When I came home, I sat on the floor of our bedroom and cried for hours. I didn't know how to tell him. I didn't want to ruin his work or his joy. He loved helping people, and I didn't want to be the reason he stopped. So I didn't tell him. I told no one. The treatment started. I told Daniel I had extra shifts at the hospital. When he came home, I would hide the bandages, the nausea, the hair falling from my pillow. I wore scarves and makeup to hide the paleness. I smiled even when I was in pain. He noticed, of course. He always noticed. One night, he said softly, "Lena, are you okay? You've changed. You're tired all the time, you don't eat, you barely sleep." I said, "I'm fine, Daniel, just work stress." He didn't believe me, but he didn't push. He just hugged me and said, "Whatever it is, you can tell me. I'll never leave you." But I was terrified that if he knew, he would stop living his life. A few weeks later, he got an offer to work in Jordan, a big project that meant the world to him. He hesitated, saying he didn't want to leave me, but I forced a smile and said, "Go. You'll regret it if you don't." He left, and I started chemotherapy. The days blurred into pain, nausea, and loneliness. My friend Claire was the only one who knew. She came to help me every day. She brought food, helped me walk, and told me, "You have to tell him, Lena. He deserves to know." But I kept saying, "Not yet." Then, one day, Daniel called me on video chat. He said, "I met a little girl here. She reminds me of you. She has the same smile." I smiled back, but I was so pale and weak, I could barely speak. He noticed and frowned. Lena, are you sure you're okay? I'm fine, I lied again. He said, You're lying. I can see it. I'm fine, I whispered. I just miss you. He sighed. Okay, I'll be home soon. He came home 2 weeks later. Early. I wasn't expecting him. I was in bed, wearing a scarf over my head, pale as paper. He opened the door and stopped. The camera bag fell from his hand. Lena, he whispered. I couldn't speak. I started crying. He ran to me and held me, shaking. Why didn't you tell me? Why, Lena? I said because I didn't want to stop your life. You love your work. You love helping people. I didn't want to be a burden. He said, You are my life. You're the reason I do everything. How could you think I'd ever see you as a burden? He didn't leave my side after that. He went with me to every appointment. He shaved his head when I lost my hair. He cooked, cleaned, and told jokes to make me laugh. For a while, it felt like maybe I would get better. Then one night, after a long day at the hospital, I heard Daniel coughing badly. I went to him, but he said, It's just a cold. It wasn't. A week later, he was in the ICU with severe pneumonia. His immune system had collapsed from exhaustion. He had been donating blood, working long hours, and barely eating, all to pay for my treatments. He died 2 weeks later, at 38 years old. I survived. He didn't. At his funeral, I couldn't even cry. I just stood there, numb, holding a letter I had written for him. A letter I never gave him. It said, My dearest Daniel, I wanted to tell you everything. I wanted to say that I was scared, not of dying, but of losing you. You gave me more love than I ever deserved. If I could live again, I would tell you the truth from the very first day. I would let you hold me through the pain instead of pushing you away. You said we should always tell the truth. I broke that promise. And it cost me you. Now, every year on his birthday, I visit his grave. I sit there for hours and tell him about my life, about how I'm still here because of him. Sometimes I imagine what he'd say if he could answer. Maybe he'd smile and say, I told you life is still beautiful, Lena. But without him, I can't see it. So if you love someone, tell them the truth. Don't protect them by lying. Don't push them away out of fear. Because one day you'll wake up and they'll be gone. And all you'll have left is a letter you never sent.